History isn't just about what's in a textbook. It's really about uncovering the real stories, the raw messages left behind by the people who actually live them. And to do that, well, you have to learn how to read the clues. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to become historical detectives. Every so often, we get a direct message from the past, a single, unfiltered voice, and it can be incredibly powerful. But without any context, it can also be a complete mystery. For example, just listen to this.
The precious life and warm blood of our heroes and heroines is flowing in the streets of Lhasa. Wow, those are some powerful words, right? They're emotional, urgent, you can feel the violence. But without any context, they're just that, words. So what do they really mean?
And that is the real question, isn't it? Who felt so compelled that they had to write this? And maybe more importantly, why should it matter to us right here, right now? This is the puzzle we're going to solve together. And like any good detective, we're going to need a toolkit.
So, what's in this toolkit? Well, essentially, it's a method for taking a mysterious clue, just like that quote, and systematically breaking it down until it starts to reveal its secrets.
The most important tool we have, by far, is something called a primary source. This is the raw evidence of history. We're talking about a letter, a diary, a photograph, a speech. Our quote, it comes from a primary source, which means it's our direct link to the past, a voice speaking to us straight from that very moment in time.
And here it is, our simple three-step decoder ring. First, we have to understand the context. What was going on in the world around the source? Second, we analyze the source itself. We look really closely at the document. And finally, we uncover its significance. We figure out what was its impact. So, context, source, significance. Let's use it on our mystery.
All right, we've got our mysterious quote and we've got our toolkit. It's time to put it to work and really decode this message.
Okay, first things first, context. To have any hope of understanding those words, we have to understand the world they were written in. What was happening at that time and in that specific place that would lead someone to write about blood flowing in the streets? So this letter comes from Tibet in 1989. But the story really starts decades earlier, back in 1950, with China's invasion. After a failed uprising in 59, the Dalai Lama had to flee. But by the late 80s, a new revolt was brewing. The response was swift and it was brutal. In March of 1989, martial law was declared in Lhasa. An activist named Lokabet Sering died in prison. This is the tense, violent world our letter comes from. So, we've set the stage. Now, with all of that context in our minds, it's time to put the source itself right under the microscope. Who exactly wrote this thing, and how did they do it? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The author wasn't just one person. It was a dissident group that called itself the Lhasa Tiger Leopard Group. The date, September 27th, 1989, that places it right smack in the middle of that martial law period. And here's the crucial detail. It wasn't just a letter. It was a poem. They used traditional Tibetan symbols to voice their protest, which was this incredibly clever act of defiance, basically hidden in plain sight. Okay, so we know the context and we've analyzed the source. We pretty much understand the what. But now we get to the most important question of all. So what? Why does this one poetic protest letter from 1989 even matter? What kind of impact did it have? And this just brilliantly illustrates its ripple effect. See, this letter was part of a much bigger protest movement that was starting to get international attention. Just a few months after it was written, the Dalai Lama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, which put a huge global spotlight on the situation. By 1991, the U.S. Senate passed a resolution calling Tibet an occupied country, and Europe did the same. Small acts of defiance, just like this letter, helped shape that entire global conversation. But, history is always complex. By 1994, economic interests led the U.S. to reaffirm a key trade status with China, which just goes to show the limits of political pressure.
So let's just take a step back. We started with this really confusing quote, but by using our three-step toolkit, we decoded its context, we looked at its source, and we figured out its significance. We've gone from just being passive readers to active detectives.
And that right there is the fundamental shift we're talking about. It's the difference between just reading a summary and actually questioning the source. It's moving beyond just knowing what happened to truly understanding why it mattered.
And you want to know the best part? This three-step toolkit works for literally everything. You can apply it to a famous speech, a controversial new law, a forgotten photograph, even a protest song. Context, source, significance. It's your universal key for unlocking all the stories hidden in the past.
Which, of course, brings us to today. Because history isn't over, not by a long shot. It's being written right now, all around us. The social media posts you see, the news articles, the viral videos, these are the primary sources of our time. So what story will they tell future historians about us? And how will they be decoded? Now that's something to think about.